Ladies and gents, welcome back to the Player Zone YouTube channel, and welcome back to our weekly tradition. We're back once again for the Premier League prediction video for match week 18, getting very, very close now to the midway point of the season, and the prediction points have swung around. I've had some few bad weeks as we approach the midpoint, but looking to bounce back. But, last week, a massive week of Premier League action, a few, upsets that didn't help my predictions, but that's why we love the Premier League, right? It's so hard to predict from match week to match week. But hoping this week to bounce back. I managed only 5 of our prediction points last week, which takes our total to 111 on the season after 17 game weeks, so not too bad at all. If you're new here to the channel, thanks for joining us. To find out about the prediction points, it's 3 points for the correct scoreline, 1 point for the correct result, and obviously 0 if you get neither correct. So looking to bounce back, 111 after 17 weeks is not too bad, but I want a sort of 7-8 point game week. Only 9 games this week, so I have to be very, very good with my predictions and maybe a correct scoreline in there as well. With that all being said, guys, before we jump into the video and the predictions, if you wouldn't mind liking the video, subscribing to the Player Zone channel for more content like this, and sharing the channel with mates who would like this sort of content, that would be much appreciated. With that all being said, guys, let's jump straight into the video. Our first game of the game week literally kicks off tonight. It is coming from the south of London. It's Crystal Palace hosting Brighton and Hove Albion. A very interesting game with two teams of contrasting sort of form at the moment. We've got Crystal Palace coming into this one. They're arguably the team in form. They drew 2-2 to Manchester City last time out. They're getting players back from injury. Hopefully, I'm praying we see Eze and Elite together on the pitch for once this season. They were the catalyst for Roy Hodgson's great turnaround almost this time last season when he took back over Crystal Palace. And we haven't quite seen that same identity and attacking style of play since, especially this season, really struggling to get goals early and especially first half goals. And I think that will be very, very important for them in this game here. Brighton are a team that grow into games and normally through their substitutions can get on top of games. So it'll be really important for Palace to try and strike early and get a goal early in the game, to try and take it to Brighton, who are really, really gettable at the current point in time in the Premier League. I don't think they've really found their identity yet. A lot of possession, a lot of side-to-side passing, but no real, clinical nature in the final third. We're talking on the podcast, in the week that we think Matoma's form sort of dropped off a little bit. The midfielders don't have that same connectivity in midfield. It's not quite the same unit that we're used to. And that's such. Brighton are a lot of possession, but not a lot of chances and not a lot of goals. And considering they got probably 2 of the better strikers in the league, and João Pedro up top alongside Evan Ferguson, it's a shame they're not getting enough chances for these players to go and score the goals. So for them, they want to get at the Crystal Palace midfield, and Crystal Palace, like we saw against Liverpool 2 weeks ago, and then against Manchester City last week, they want to be tough and robust in that midfield there, led by Will Hughes, Jeffrey Schlupp tucking inside and helping out in there as well, and really creating that identity of really toughness, brute strength in that midfield, because they can obviously, I think, over strengthen this Brighton midfield that's lacking a lot at the current point in time. Despite all this being said, Pascal Gross, Hinshelwood, these sort of fullbacks and midfield areas, since they're struggling in there, look like the fullbacks and the wingers with the ones to get the chances for Brighton and really trying to expose the lack of pace at a fullback that Crystal Palace have. I've gone and put faith in Brighton once again. I've got them win this game 2-1. It's going to be a hard place to travel up there to Crystal Palace, but I think they'll have enough quality to get over the line in this one. Our next game takes us to Villa Park. It's Aston Villa hosting Sheffield United, and it's a bit of a slam dunk, unfortunately. Aston Villa right now are in ultimate form. They have won 15 in a row at home at Villa Park. It's a tough place to go when they're not doing well, but now that they're doing well as well, good luck trying to stop this team on fire recently. Another great result last time out. They've gone now 6 games unbeaten since that 2-0 loss to Nottingham Forest a few weeks back. You've got a great front line in Watkins and Bailey, 9 goals for Watkins, 5 goals for Bailey. I think 4 now for Diaby as well. And then midfield, Douglas Luiz in the goals and John McGinn's creating chances as well. There's just so much good things happening at Aston Villa right now. And I think it'll be too hard for Sheffield United to stop. They had a really, really, welcome back to reality after their win. Struggled last time out. But still, Chris Wilder can turn this team around. We know that they have the ability to go and challenge teams. We saw in the first half against Chelsea, sometimes on the counter, they had an opportunity to score goals. If they're going to get anything out of this game, they've got to be clinical in front of goal, because they'll get the odd counter. We saw that Forest game that was the last Villa loss. they got done on the counter-attack. So if Sheffield United can sit in, absorb, and then try and pounce on the counter-attack, that's probably their only chance and avenue to goal in this game. Otherwise, Aston Villa are going to be too strong all over the park. This could be a massacre. I'm backing in Aston Villa. I've got them winning this game 4-0. I just think Sheffield United, Aston Villa, they're in a league of their own compared to Sheffield United, so should be a bit of a walk in the park for these guys. Our next game is a very interesting matchup. It's West Ham United hosting Manchester United. We're back there in London, in East London, and what a game this one is going to be. Two teams, again, really hard to read. West Ham lose 5-0 the week prior, and then last weekend go and beat Wolves convincingly 3-0. Manchester United, go and get easily beaten by Bournemouth 3-0, beaten in the Champions League, and then go and get a really, really impressive 0-0 at Anfield against Liverpool. They're two teams, you don't know who's going to turn up on each match week. Starting with West Ham, obviously a great result, 3-0 last time out. Mohamed Kudus with a double, Jared Bowen the goals. He continues to be on fire this season. And it's Lucas Paquetá who was a game changer in that one there. 3 assists, a hat-trick of an assist, all coming basically from his own half as well. It just goes to show all good things in this West Ham side comes from that midfield. I think of Ward-Prowse has had moments, Lucas Paquetá has had moments, Mohamed Kudus from that number 10 role has been very impressive. Souček scored important goals, and Edson Alvarez has been that real bull in midfield that's replaced Declan Rice. They're a team that's very, very good on the front foot right now and on the counter-attack, but surprisingly not very good at the back. They've been conceding goals and large amounts at that at times as well, thinking back to that 5-0 versus Fulham. So if they fix that up and go back to that more traditional West Ham shape where they're really solid at the back and solid in midfield, they could get a lot of more wins this season. It could be challenging for Europa League. I think they're going to be a real challenge for Manchester United, especially at home. West Ham are very solid there. Touching on Manchester United, obviously the great 0-0 versus Liverpool. Who would have thought would be saying that? But considering where the season is currently, it is a great 0-0. The first team to take points off Liverpool at Anfield, the first team to hold them goalless at Anfield. Obviously, they just sat back and absorbed a lot of pressure with some great saves and great blocks, but it showed a bit of backbone for Manchester United that we haven't seen since last season. That was good to see in that regard. I think in this game, though, it's going to be pressure on Anthony, pressure on Højlund, and pressure on Bruno Fernandes, who comes back into the side, to see if they can try and create and score opportunities. Because right now, for Manchester United, with a -3 goal difference, the goals are really being hard to come by. Onana's, I think, equal second or top in clean sheets right now this season. So you can't really point the blame onto Onana and the back four, who've constantly changed all season. You've got to point it to the forwards, the strikers, the wingers, who haven't scored or created enough this season. So it'll be pressure them this game to score the goals, because West Ham, we know, will sit in, absorb pressure, and try and get the team on the counter-attack. When you got Johnny Evans at the back, Delo's red card, you might see some movement around the back line once again. West Ham can get at Manchester United on the counter-attack. It's going to be a hard one to predict. I think Manchester United will continue their mini good form. They always go 2 games good, 1 game poor. So I've got Manchester United win this game 2-1 in a very close game. I think a late winner for Manchester United to get them over the line in this one here. Our next game keeps us in London. It's Fulham hosting Burnley. Another game where it's looking like a bit of a slam dunk, and the fact that Fulham have been in great form recently. They obviously come off a 3-0 loss on the weekend to Newcastle, also behind Raul Jimenez's poor mistake. But outside of that blip, they played some really good football. They go and beat Everton in penalties in the Cup during midweek as well. So obviously it's good vibes, it's good form right now for Everton. They're back in the goals as well, which is really good to see. They've scored 16 goals in their last 4 games. It's averaging 4 a game, just going to show how clinical they've been and how creative they've been as well. And obviously that's the downside of this game here. They'll be missing Raul Jimenez for an extended period of time with that straight red. So they're going to have to find another avenue to goal, another avenue to put in the back of the net, whether that be Vinicius or whether that be pushing midfielders on for midfield. We've seen improvements from Pereira. Alex Iwobi's refound himself on the flank, and we know how good Willian has been off that right as well. So we know they've got goals in them, and they've been very, very good at home this season. Just really important they can hold up at the back and that back four be as solid as ever. Because I guess against Newcastle, they really were exposed. That I know it was 10 men, but their back line was exposed at times and making a few little errors. In terms of Burnley, they were convincingly beat last weekend by Sean Dyche. He came back to get revenge over them. A 2-0 loss to Everton. They really just haven't had their mojo at all this season. They've kept this identity, but it just isn't good enough. There's not enough chances in the final third. A lot of side-to-side possession and nothing really sharp in that final third to create a chance or to score a goal. I can really only see this game going one way, especially the form that Fulham have been in, how good they've been at home, and the goals they're scoring. I've got Fulham winning this game 3-1. I think Burnley might snatch a goal, but I think they're just going to be too much talent in this game, and Burnley's strategies ain't going to work against a Fulham side who'll hit them on the counter-attack. Our next game sees Luton hosting Newcastle United, and obviously really great to hear. I want to start off by saying really great to hear that Tom Lockyer, the captain for the side, is doing okay. Obviously their game gets suspended last week. That'll be replayed in full in the future. But they were playing very well against Bournemouth prior to that awful incident, accident. They really took it up to them. A 1-1 score at that current point in time. Adebayo had scored a goal. That was his 5th for the season. He looks like their avenue to goal right now. He looks like their quality player up top. I thought it was going to be Carlton Morris. It looks like he's taken that role off him. And we know we've talked about what Towns has done and Ross Barkley's done playing at number 8 there as well. They've been very solid at the back in recent weeks as well and really hard to break down. And the fact they were taking it to an informed Bournemouth side goes to show how good they've been this season in recent weeks. And we know how hard they are to beat at home. It's a really cramped in, congested environment. And that's where the game will be won and lost, I feel. In that midfield battle there, can Luton get on top and, ruffle up that Newcastle midfield, because they've got a few guys in there themselves who are going to be aggressive into tackles and really get up for the game. I think of Bruno Guimaraes, Lewis Miley's quality in the ball has been very impressive as well, and Joe Linton is not afraid of a tackle either. So the midfield battle is where this game's going to be, I guess, not won or lost, but I guess for Luton, if they can draw it or do they lose the game, because if Newcastle can get in control of that midfield and get settled to the ground, you expect them to go on and win the game. But if Luton can unsettle Newcastle in that midfield and really make it a scrap at that midfield battle, they can, we've seen what they've done in recent weeks. If they score early, they could potentially get a draw or maybe a famous win there at Kenilworth Road. It's going to be a very hard game to predict because Newcastle's form right now have been up and down. They lose to Chelsea in the Cup midweek, but they beat Fulham 3-0 on the weekend. I'm going to give Newcastle the benefit of the doubt, though. I think they're going to come good now, solely focusing on Premier League football. I've got them winning this game 2-0. But again, they've got a mistake in them in recent weeks. So if those mistakes lead to goals, Luton could come through and win this game of football. Our next game sees Nottingham Forest host Bournemouth. The first game for Nuno Espirito Santo at the City Ground. They were quite disappointing last time out in Cooper's last game at the helm. 2-0 loss to Tottenham. They had moments in the game but just didn't create enough pressure over extended periods of time, and I think that's been the problem for them this season. Without Taiwo Awoniyi, the goals don't come as easy and they can't sustain pressure on oppositions, and that's where Tottenham sort of made their counter back. They got a goal in half-time in Richarlison, and then Kulusevski goes and doubles the lead just after half-time. And for Nottingham Forest, they need more chance creation, they need more sustained pressure, and at home, the City Ground fans will be up for it. They're not really happy with the change of management, but they'll get behind their team and behind whatever manager's leading their side. And it's going to be a hard challenge for Bournemouth, who continue to try and scale up the Premier League table. They were doing all right in that 1-1 point in time versus Luton, but obviously the incident pauses that game and they have to replay that one in the future. But in that game there, Luton were tight and compact and Bournemouth are missing a few chances. So I think that's the formula for Nottingham Forest, to try and be compact, try and condense that sort of midfield and central forward areas, because there wasn't many easy chances for Bournemouth to go and score. We know how good Solanke's been. We know how good those wingers have been. Tavernier, Semenyo, Cliver, all these front four have been very impressive for them, and they're keys to their victories. It depends how much chance creation they can get from midfield. Are they going to be the team with more possession? I believe so. But if so, will they get done on the counter-attack by a very pacey front three for Nottingham Forest? It's a very interesting sort of matchup. Two teams that will play contrasting styles of football, I believe. But I think, Bournemouth, with their quality, with the management style that Iriola's brought in, and the confidence they're playing with right now, I think they'll get over the line. We know that Iriola's style of play can travel, it can be taken away, and I think they'll be to their advantage. They got this game, I think, 2-1, in my opinion, but it'll be a very, very cagey affair early on. With the first goal, I think, will decide this match. Our next game keeps us back there in London. It is Spurs hosting Everton. And boy, this is going to be a great game. Everton probably the form team of the competition. And Spurs probably play the greatest brand of football in the competition. It'll be a definitely one-way possession battle. But the scoreline will be very, very interesting. Tottenham obviously coming off that 2-0 win versus Forest. They're back to their best, scoring goals, being creative, being on the front foot. But yet again, Basuma gets red carded. He'll miss 4 games, and you lose that midfield identity once again. Brennan Johnson will likely miss with concussion protocols, and Destiny Udogie is battling an injury also. So once again, Tottenham's team seems to be ravaged with injuries. I guess the positive for them last week, Richarlison's in the goals again, so 3 goals in 2 games. And the big thing for me was Kulusevski in that James Maddison role in behind the striker has been very, very impressive. He's obviously not the most out-and-out winger in terms of his pace. He's quite a slower player, but he's quite tall and built in the same sort of mould of Kai Havertz. But he's so creative and he can find a way to goal. Scores that massive goal in that game to seal the win over Forest. He scored versus Man City with a towering header a few weeks back as well. So he seems to be in great form. So is Heung-min Son. And if they can just hold on whilst Basuma's missing, this team will continue to rise that Premier League table. But in terms of this game, I think that midfield battle once again will be the key to this game here. We've got really, really in form Everton with Doucouré and Garner and Onana that midfield. We obviously know Doucouré goes and pushes on as a false 9. Then they've got great wingers as well, and McNeil and Harrison are producing at a very high level at the moment. And that's where the game's probably going to be won and lost in that midfield area. Can the Spurs midfield without Basuma, hold up to the challenge that Everton will put up to them? And can Everton, play enough without the ball and counter-attack at will against Tottenham and get at this high line that Tottenham will play? Can they use the flanks with McNeil and Harrison to their benefit? And I think these two teams just match up quite nicely in the fact they play different styles of football, but they're both equally good at their styles of play. Any other time of the year, you'd think Tottenham will win this game 3 goals or 4 goals to nil, but I think it's going to be really nice and tight. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt being at home, but I think they win this game in a close one, 3 goals to 2. Our penultimate game from the match week is probably the biggest one. It is Liverpool hosting Arsenal. The top 2 go at it. We are live streaming it, a live watch along here on the channel as well. Super excited for that one here. This one is going to be a classic. You obviously got Liverpool coming off a disappointing 0-0 versus Manchester United, but then go and slap up West Ham 5-1 in the week. And then Arsenal come off a clinical 2-0 performance against Brighton, but yet again are missing a lot of chances. And I want to start on Arsenal. They've been really good in recent weeks, but haven't been able to put the goals on the board. It hurt them against Aston Villa, and I think it'll hurt them in the future, whether in the Champions League or on the back end of this Premier League season. You need Gabriel Jesus, you need Martinelli, and you need Martin Odegaard to be clinical in front of goal and actually convert chances, because these guys could be the reason that Arsenal are held back. They're so good defensively. Declan Rice and Kai Havertz are playing at a great level as well in midfield, and all it's missing right now is goals from Odegaard. It's goals from Jesus. But they're all playing really, really well. Jesus is playing well. Martinelli's playing great football. Same as Odegaard. They just can't score in front of goals. And, they haven't really blown a team out this season. We haven't seen that sort of 5-0, 4-0 type result from Arsenal. It's because they're not scoring enough goals. Their defence is solid, as I said. Their midfield's been great. They just need to convert chances. And when you come up against a Liverpool side that's so good on the front foot and so fruitful in forward areas, you're going to be challenging that department there. And that's why I think this game will be neck and neck, because the defence of Arsenal is so good, the attack of Liverpool is so good as well. So it's fire and water clashing. It's going to be an absolute killer battle. In terms of Liverpool, massive in the week. They rested all their players, but they still got the 5-1 result. The only real problem for me right now is Alexis McAllister is going to be missing once again. He will be out until the new year. But him in that number 6 role has been so important for them, playing almost that Brighton role where he picks the ball up from deep areas and transitions Liverpool going forward. Gravenberch was good at periods. He was taken off and the whole system fell apart for Liverpool. I just think if he's playing there or Curtis Jones is playing in there, it's such an important role in terms of covering the back 4, but also being progressive in terms of possession and linking the play up, because they looked very, very hollow with that Gravenberch in there and without McAllister, and there isn't the same sort of feel for Liverpool. Anfield's been ridiculed during the week for their poor atmosphere and intensity at the ground. They're all going to lift for the weekend. It is a top 2 clash. You expect that to happen. And I think it's quite simple for 2 teams. For Arsenal, it's to score goals from midfield areas, with McAllister missing and a sort of disjointed Liverpool midfield. And for Liverpool, it's to exploit the fullbacks, because out of all the positions in the Arsenal side, those fullbacks are probably the weakest positions. So Diaz, Salah, if Gakpo comes on, if Nunez goes wide, that's where you got to capitalise. Get at the fullbacks, cut in, score goals in those sort of areas there, because that's probably the weakest spot for Arsenal. In terms of this game, it's going to be so hard to call. I really want to go with Arsenal because of McAllister's missing, but I think I'm going to back a draw in. I'm going to go 1-1. I think Liverpool is so good at home, but with McAllister missing, they're vulnerable. For Arsenal, they're not scoring enough goals, but they're creating, some really solid chances. I think just two great teams going up against each other. No one would really want to lose this game this early in the season, so I think as such, we're going to see a draw. 1-1's the result for me. That now brings us to our final game of the weekend. It's Wolves at home hosting Chelsea. You know how good Wolves can be at home. They've been in a bit of a downturn recently in terms of form, but they're a different kettle of fish at home. They were exploited by West Ham, though, last time out on the counter-attack. Saw two counter-attacking sides go at each other, and they got outplayed purely probably through Lucas Paquetá. But Wolves have opportunities. They could have scored, but they didn't quite take their chances. And it's good to see Pedro Neto back at training during the week, but they're really missing his creativity, the assist leader in the Premier League. They just haven't had that ability to score goals at will with him being missing. But in this game here against the Chelsea side, they've been very vulnerable at the back in recent weeks, and you saw Sheffield United had a few chances against them on the counter-attack. That's going to be Wolves' avenue to goal. And Gary O'Neill will set his side up probably with a 5-back or with a 4 that's very, very tight and condensed. They'll defend central areas and force Mudryk and Sterling and these guys that haven't been clinical at times to create and score chances and keep the ball out of the Gallaghers of the world and the Nkunkus. It'll be interesting to see if he plays with Enzo Fernandez looking like he was injured in the Carabao Cup. You expect Nkunku to probably get the start. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes in his first full Premier League start. Chelsea obviously get the good result last week out, the 2-0 versus Sheffield United. They backed that up with a penalty shootout win versus Newcastle midweek in the Carabao Cup. They've got some good form now, but with Chelsea, we always see this happen. They go through a little good run of 2 weeks or even a week and a half, and then everything comes crashing down. So can they continue their form? That's, I guess, the biggest question from this. Wolves are gettable. They're vulnerable at this current point in time. They're not getting the output that we saw for their good little run they had. They're missing some key players. Their midfield's weaker. I think it's a chance for Chelsea to really show what they're all about. It's a really hard place to travel. We know that. Wolves are good at home, but I think Chelsea get over the line. But then winning this game 2-1, I think Wolves will score first, but Chelsea's quality will just be too much in the second half, and they'll overwhelm the Wolves side. That all being said, ladies and gentlemen, that brings the Match Week 18 predictions for the Premier League to an end. 9 games over this weekend as we lead up to Christmas. Massive games. Games coming up almost every second day now, it feels. So another prediction video out very, very soon. Let me know what you think of my predictions. Have I got them wrong? Have I got them right? Also, make sure to join us for the Arsenal-Liverpool game that will be live watching there Saturday night in England, Sunday morning here in Australia. Very, very excited for that one there. And also, if you wouldn't mind leaving a like on this video, subscribing to the Player Zone channel and sharing the channel with mates for more of this sort of type of content. That all being said, guys, hope you enjoy the weekend's action from the Premier League. Enjoy this Christmas period. It's always great for football fans. We see games almost every single day. So what's there not to love about football at this current point in time? Have a great rest of your day. Until the next video, guys. See you later. Peace.